Welcome to This Explainer. Today, we're unpacking a really intense clash of perspectives surrounding Meta's AI strategy. We are going to navigate a fascinating, honestly kind of complex narrative, using leaked audio from Meta's leadership alongside some very sharp, critical commentary from The Jimmy Dore Show. We're going to break down exactly how this massive race for artificial intelligence dominance is literally reshaping the tech workforce and map out what's actually happening behind the corporate curtain. We're jumping straight into the deep end right off the bat. Listen to this jarring cold open from Meta's April 30th all-hands meeting. Mark Zuckerberg is explaining to his employees exactly how their next-generation AI is being developed. He says it's not just about raw computing power, It's about capturing human ingenuity. This single sentence completely establishes the stakes for today. It sounds super innovative on the surface, but as we'll see, it carries some profound implications for the actual people being watched. All right, let's dive right into Section 1, the leaked Zuckerberg audio. So in this meeting, Zuckerberg outlined what we can basically call an internal AI training hypothesis. The logic goes a bit like this. Meta employs thousands of engineers, right? And their average intelligence and coding skills are significantly higher than what you typically find through external contract companies. By having these internal experts build tools and solve tasks, the evolving AI systems can basically look over their shoulders and observe their processes. The hypothesis is that this internal observation is going to dramatically increase the AI's coding abilities way faster than the competition. It's a highly aggressive strategy to leverage their top-tier human capital to, teach the machine. And man, this perfectly illustrates the core conflict we're exploring today. On one side, Meta frames this as a strategic, super efficient way to feed high-quality content into AI, so it learns how smart people accomplish tasks. But then, the Jimmy Dore Show offers a starkly different interpretation. They argue that these highly skilled workers are effectively engineering their own obsolescence. The critique here is that employees are basically being used as disposable instruction booklets, literally training the very systems designed to replace them. The commentators over at the Jimmy Dore Show, they pull no punches. They use this incredibly stark, visceral language to impartially describe what they see as a grim reality facing Meta's tech workers. They don't frame this as corporate innovation. They frame it as a trap. The idea being that participating in your daily job duties is actively contributing to your own future unemployment. It is a highly cynical view of the tech giants' initiatives, and it really highlights a profound distrust between labor and corporate leadership. Which brings us to Section 2. The 4 a.m. layoffs. Just look at how incredibly fast this transition happened. On April 30th, they're discussing strategy internally. Boom, just over 2 weeks later, on May 18th, 7,000 workers are suddenly reassigned to newly formed teams focused on AI. And then, the very next day, the hammer drops. Mass layoff emails went out. The fallout hit employees globally, starting in international hubs like Singapore, where workers literally received termination notices at 4 in the morning. 8,000. That is the exact number of Meta employees globally who woke up to sudden job cuts as part of this massive restructuring effort. It's a staggering figure, and it really grounds these theoretical debates about AI automation into a very real, very harsh human cost. Now, following the cuts, an internal memo from Meta's HR department went out, framing the layoffs through the lens of corporate efficiency. They stated the goal was to operate with a flatter structure featuring smaller, faster pods and cohorts, which leadership claimed would make the work more rewarding. However, the commentary from our source strongly pushes back on that phrasing. They highlight how reducing actual human beings to just pods and cohorts leaves workers feeling deeply dehumanized and isolated, especially in the face of all this machine automation. Let's look at the financials in Section 3, pivoting billions to AI. Because at the exact same time Meta was announcing these layoffs, they committed well over $100 billion, yes, billion with a B, strictly to artificial intelligence infrastructure. This number is absolutely massive. It signals a fundamental total pivot in the company's entire business model. And this exact disparity is where the Jimmy Dore Show anchors their critique. The projected savings from firing those 8,000 human workers, it's roughly $3 billion. Meanwhile, Meta's projected AI capital expenditure could hit $145 billion this year alone, with hundreds of billions more anticipated before the end of the decade. So, the source argues that the savings from human labor are just a drop in the bucket compared to these staggering AI costs, suggesting the layoffs are less about saving money and more about a ruthless ideological shift toward automation. Let's shift gears a bit to Section 4, surveillance and pushback.
So in that leaked audio, leadership insisted the data wasn't being used for performance tracking or surveillance. But honestly, the workforce wasn't buying it. Over 1,000 anxious employees actively signed a petition addressed directly to Zuckerberg. They demanded that Meta stop collecting this highly granular data from their devices. We are talking about capturing precise keystrokes, tracking exact mouse movements, and literally recording active screen content to train the AI. Despite the assurances from leadership, workers were, understandably, terrified of this level of microscopic surveillance.
You can really feel the human toll of all this restructuring. Our source shared an account from a former Meta employee on social media describing the atmosphere as just incredibly anxious. They noted that for a lot of people, these jobs were precarious lifelines. The vivid imagery here is wild. Workers treating the night before layoffs like doomsday, frantically stuffing their bags with free office snacks and phone chargers. It really paints a heartbreaking picture of the reality on the ground during this whole transition. Which leads us to our final section, the future of tech work. According to the source material, a staggering 138,000 tech jobs were slashed in the year 2026 alone. To put that math into perspective, that translates to nearly 1,000 jobs disappearing every single day across the industry. And as you'll see, this ruthless pivot toward AI automation and cost-cutting, it is definitely not just an isolated social media thing. It's a massive, systemic shift across the entire corporate spectrum. We're seeing tech and retail giants like Amazon, Dell, Oracle, and Microsoft. But we're also seeing the finance and energy sectors, places like Citi, PayPal, and Chevron, and even logistics companies like UPS. The displacement of human labor by AI infrastructure is a totally economy-wide phenomenon. The source material also points out a pretty wild political dynamic happening simultaneously. Literally hours before those 4 a.m. mass layoff emails went out, Meta reportedly donated nearly $1 million to a political super PAC in California. The Jimmy Dore Show highlights this massive donation as further evidence of what they view as an oligarch-driven environment. They argue it's a system that seemingly prioritizes corporate power, political influence, and technological dominance way above the well-being and stability of everyday human labor. So that brings us to the ultimate question we all really have to ask ourselves. We've seen how Meta is utilizing their absolute top-tier engineers to train the very AI systems that are displacing them. If the smartest, most highly compensated engineers in the world are being tasked with building the tools of their own obsolescence, what exactly does the future hold for the rest of the workforce? We'll leave you with that final, provocative thought to chew on regarding the profound and, frankly, unsettling implications of our rapid AI revolution. Thank you so much for joining me for this explainer. Keep questioning, keep learning, and I'll see you next time.